Archie was the school's heartthrob and also troublemaker. He wanted to be a model, so he didn't really care about his studies. Micah, on the other hand, was the smartest kid in school. He never mingled with anyone and always had his face in a book. The only time he raised his head from his book was to answer questions in class or when picking new books at the library. He always spent his breaks in the library, and he even read while using the bathroom. If it weren't for being popular as the top student, he would have been invisible. Archie and his buddies ditched class one day and planned to sneak out of school by climbing over the wall. As they were scaling the wall, Micah strolled by, nose deep in a book, not even bothering to glance their way. Archie and his friends froze, wondering if Micah had spotted them. They fretted over the possibility of Micah snitching on them, which could mean suspension. Archie's friends urged him to keep watch on Micah, since they were in the same class. Archie returned to class, his eyes fixed on Micah the entire time. Micah, immersed in his book. When school ended, Archie approached Micah, waving and saying hi. Micah ignored him, walking past without a glance. Archie trailed after him, blocking his path. Micah, still focused on his book, attempted to move around Archie, but Archie persisted. Finally irritated, Micah closed his book and looked up, glaring at Archie. Archie gasped when he finally saw Micah's face up close. They had been in the same class, but Archie had never really looked at him. With a stunned expression, Archie exclaimed, "Is this the pretty face you've been hiding behind those books?" Micah rolled his eyes and stomped on Archie's foot, causing him to step aside. Micah walked past, returning his attention to his book. The next day, Micah was browsing the library shelves for new books. As he reached for a book, he suddenly met Archie's face. Archie greeted him with a wide smile. "Hi." Micah, feeling frustrated, shoved the book back onto the shelf, hitting Archie's nose. Archie winced in pain, holding his nose, and when he looked back, Micah had vanished. In class, Archie moved his desk next to Micah's in the front seat of the class. Resting his cheek on his fist, Archie stared at Micah and remarked, "Your side profile is perfect. I hope you're not planning on becoming a model. I'd be jobless then." Micah ignored him as if he didn't exist, focusing intently on his book. Archie was known for always sitting at the back of the class, no matter how much teachers urged him to move to the front. Every teacher who entered the classroom was surprised to find Archie sitting at the front, and they bombarded him with questions throughout the lessons. The following day, Archie returned to his usual spot at the back, but he didn't leave Micah. In the following days, Archie persistently went after Micah, wanting to gain his attention, but Micah continued to ignore him. One day, tired of Archie's persistent disruptions, Micah closed his book and turned to confront Archie, who was close behind him. Micah addressed him directly, saying, "If you keep following me because you're worried I'll snitch about you and your friends skipping school by jumping the wall, don't be. I prefer to keep to myself and don't have time for tattling." Archie asked, "So, you really saw us?" Micah responded, "Just because I'm always focused on my books doesn't mean I don't notice what's going on around me. Now that you know your secret is safe, you can stop following me." Archie smirked and remarked, "I've been following you because I'm interested in you." Micah asked, "So you're not going to leave me alone?" Archie simply responded with a nonchalant hum. Micah said, "Well then, I have no choice but to report what I saw. You'll be suspended, and then I'll finally have some peace." Undeterred, Archie replied confidently, "You won't do that." Just then, the principal passed by, and Micah to call out to him. Quickly, Archie covered Micah's mouth, conceding, "Okay fine, I'll leave you alone." Micah removed Archie's hand, and replied, "You better do." With that, he walked away. Archie sat in his spot at the back of the class, his gaze fixed on Micah, thinking of how to get close to him again. Of course he wasn't going to leave him alone just like that. As if the universe was on his side, Archie's class teacher called him over. She told him to do something about his grades, else he wouldn't be able to graduate. Even if he wants to be a model, he still has to get into college. With a sly grin, Archie assured the teacher that he was ready to focus on his studies. Suggested that having a classmate tutor him would make it easier. The teacher, pleased with the change in Archie, asked if he had anyone in mind. Without hesitation, Archie requested Micah. The teacher assured him that even though it won't be easy to get Micah to accept to tutor him, she'll try and talk to him. The next day, the teacher called Micah to her office and asked him to help tutor Archie. Micah immediately refused, but the teacher offered him extra credit if he did. Although Micah had no need for extra credit, he never passed up an opportunity to bolster his academic record. Reluctantly, he agreed. Micah exited the office. Archie intercepted him at the door, saying, "I was going to stay away from you, but Mrs. Nelson insisted you tutor me." Micah raised an eyebrow and replied, "Really? That's not what she told me." Archie sheepishly smiled, and Micah walked away. After school, Archie blocked Micah's path and asked, "So where should we do the tutoring? Your place or mine?" Micah pulled out some books from his bag and handed them to Archie. Perplexed, Archie asked what he should do with them. Micah replied, "Read them, of course. You have until tomorrow to memorize it all. I want to know what I'm dealing with first." Archie's eyes widened as he scanned the pile of books. "You want me to memorize all of these?" he exclaimed. "I'll grow old and still won't finish." Micah's expression remained stoic as he suggested, "Well, in that case, I don't think I can tutor you." He attempted to retrieve the books, but Archie held on tightly, insisting that he could memorize them. Micah instructed him to meet at the school library an hour before class the next day. Archie lamented that he wouldn't get any sleep, but Micah simply shrugged and walked away. At home, Archie attempted to read the books, but as soon as he opened the first one and skimmed through the pages, he dozed off. The next morning, Archie woke up late, but managed to arrive at school 30 minutes before it started. Rushing to the library, he found Micah already seated, absorbed in a book. Archie approached Micah, who glanced up and remarked, "You're late." Archie replied, "Yeah, sorry for making you wait." Micah replied, "I wasn't waiting. This is my usual time for school." Archie took a seat beside Micah, and Micah extended his hand. Smiling, Archie rested his chin on it, and Micah swiftly pulled his hand back, asking for the books. Archie presented the books, and when Micah asked if he had read them, Archie claimed he had. Micah scrutinized the books and remarked, "You didn't read them." Archie was surprised. "Whoa! How did you know?" he exclaimed. Micah responded sternly, "If this is your attitude towards studying, then I don't think I can tutor you." Archie quickly grabbed Micah's arm and pleaded, "I'll be serious from now on, I promise." Micah withdrew his arm and produced a timetable he had prepared. He explained that they would have tutoring sessions before school, during breaks, and after school until the library closed at p.m. Archie asked, "No time to rest?" Micah responded, "With your grades, you can't afford to rest. I'm sacrificing my time for you, so you better take this seriously." Inside, Archie felt a pang of regret, wondering what he had gotten himself into. Just then, the bell rang, signaling the start of classes. Micah concluded, "See you during break," and left. In the days that followed, Archie endured intense tutoring sessions with Micah. Micah bombarded him with notes, assignments, and tests, leaving Archie with little time for anything else, including hanging out with his friends. Gone were the days of dozing off in class. Micah made sure Archie stayed focused by moving him to the front and keeping a watchful eye on him. Initially, Archie complained incessantly about everything, but as time passed, he grew accustomed to it. Eventually, he found himself eagerly anticipating school each day, mostly because it meant spending time with Micah. Initially, Archie's interest in Micah was from finding him intriguing and wanting to understand what kind of person he was. However, as time went on, that curiosity evolved into something more. Even though Micah always acted cold, he still looked forward to seeing him every day and wanted to be with him all the time. During one of their tutoring sessions, Archie was solving a test that Micah had assigned, while Micah had his nose buried in a book. Archie noticed that Micah hadn't turned the page for quite some time. With a gentle touch, Archie nudged the book with his finger and realized that Micah had fallen asleep. Just as Micah began to lose his balance, Archie quickly caught him, Micah's cheek now resting in Archie's palm. Archie silently moved his chair closer to Micah's and gently rested Micah's head on his shoulder. He smiled as he watched Micah sleep, using his fingertip to delicately play with Micah's long lashes. Softly murmuring, "You don't even let me doze off, but you're sleeping?" Archie carefully adjusted Micah's head on his shoulder and resumed his test. Almost an hour later, Micah stirred awake and noticed his head resting on Archie's shoulder. Hastily, he pulled away, saying, "I wasn't sleeping, just resting my eyes." Archie responded, "Okay, I'll act like I didn't see you sleeping and snoring." Micah retorted, "I don't snore." Archie leaned in close to Micah's face and teased, "Oh, yes, you do. You even had a little drool there," pointing to Micah's cheek. Micah quickly wiped his cheek, but there was nothing there. He then snatched Archie's test paper, looking through, and immediately identified every mistake Archie had made. Slamming the paper on the table, Micah said, "You need to focus more on this," pointing to the test paper. He instructed Archie to carefully read and understand the questions before answering, as all the incorrect answers stemmed from a lack of comprehension. Archie took the paper back to redo it. Archie's academic performance improved, earning praise from Micah. Excited, Archie asked for a gift, but Micah replied that if Archie scored a 90 on every subject in the upcoming exam, then he'd receive a gift. Archie retorted, "Just admit you don't want to give me the gift." Micah added, "If you fail in any subject, don't tell anyone I was ever your tutor." Archie sighed heavily. During the exam period, Archie was the last to submit his paper for every subject. Micah trusted Archie to do his best. When the results were released, Archie anxiously checked his phone. He wasn't worried about failing. He knew he had done well. His nerves were instead about meeting Micah's high standards. His excitement soared when he discovered he had achieved exactly 90 on all subjects. Rushing over to Micah, he proudly showed him the results. Micah asked, "Were you pretending to be dumb all this time?" Archie replied, "Getting the gift from you motivated me." Micah asked what he wanted, and Archie replied, "I want us to go on a date. You can't say no, you already promised." Micah responded, "I wasn't going to say no, while I will like to say no. I'm a man of my word." Archie beamed with excitement, telling Micah that he would text him the details of their date. On the day of the date, Archie eagerly waited at the entrance of a zoo. He was shocked when he spotted Micah approaching, engrossed in a book. As Micah drew nearer, Archie took the book from him, declaring, "Today is just for us, no books allowed." Micah attempted to retrieve the book, but Archie swiftly slipped it into his bag and closed it. With a smile, Archie then took Micah's hand and led them into the zoo together. As they entered the zoo, Micah released Archie's hand and began exploring on his own, a bright smile lighting up his face as he interacted with the animals, petting and feeding them with enthusiasm. Micah seemed to forget Archie's presence entirely. Archie trailed behind Micah, bummed out. This wasn't the romantic date he had imagined. It felt more like he was on a solo date. Micah didn't want to leave till the zoo was closing. As they exited, Archie remarked, "I didn't know you loved animals this much." Under his breath, Archie added, "I wouldn't have brought you here if I knew." Micah affirmed his love for animals. Archie commented, "This is the first time I've seen you smile. You're always so cold to me, but today, I saw a side of you that I never knew existed. You looked so cute." Micah declared the date over and that he was leaving. As Micah turned to leave, Archie grabbed him by the shirt. "We haven't even started the date yet," Archie asserted. "You were practically on a date with the animals. You ignored me the whole time, so this doesn't count." Micah fell silent for a moment before conceding, "Well, I didn't realize." "Okay. What else do you want to do?" With a smile, Archie took Micah's hand and replied, "You'll see when we get there." Leading Micah to a nearby skating rink, Archie hoped that skating together would provide an opportunity for him to have some intimate moments with Micah. As they arrived, Micah questioned, "Skating?" Archie replied, "Yeah, don't worry, I'll teach you." After they put on their skates, Archie stood up and extended his hand to Micah. "You can hold onto my hand if you're scared," he offered. Micah scoffed and skated off on his own, gliding across the ice like a pro. Archie looked at him in shock. Nothing was going how he imagined. The date can't end without him having at least one tiny moment with Micah. He pretended to struggle on the skating rink, deliberately losing his balance and falling to the ice. Micah skated over and offered his arm for Archie to hold onto. Archie secretly smiled. Holding onto Micah's arm for support, Archie feigned another stumble while getting up, falling into Micah's arms and wrapping his own around Micah's neck. Hugging Micah tightly, Archie acted as if he would fall again if he let go. Micah usually hated physical contact with people, but strangely enough, he didn't hate Archie hugging him. In fact, he found himself enjoying it. With Archie still hugging him, Micah commented, "You wanted to teach me how to skate when you don't even know how." Archie replied, "I watched some YouTube videos and felt like I could do it, but I guess I was wrong." Micah separated himself from Archie's embrace and extended his hand. Archie smiled and interlocked his fingers with Micah's. As they skated together, Micah glided backward facing Archie, while Archie faced him. Archie became captivated, gazing deeply at Micah. In that moment, it felt as though time stood still, and it was just them in their own world. Micah, too, seemed transfixed, his attention solely fixated on Archie, as if nothing else mattered in that moment. Neither noticed they were heading toward a wall, and Micah's back collided with it, causing Archie to bump into Micah's arms. Despite the collision, they remained lost in their own little world, oblivious to everything else around them. Licking his lips and breathing unevenly, Archie inched closer to Micah's lips, his eyelids growing heavy with anticipation. Simultaneously, Micah found himself drawn to Archie's advances, moving closer as well. Just as their lips brushed against each other, Archie abruptly pulled back, and Micah, realizing what he was doing, also moved back. Suddenly, an employee appeared out of nowhere and asked, "Do you need a room? We have rooms available here too." Micah swiftly responded, "No, we were just leaving," and hastened away. Archie, caught up in the moment, forgot his pretense of being unable to skate and effortlessly glided to where they changed their shoes. Micah noticed, but remained silent, already having changed his shoes. With a brief "I'm leaving," he departed. As they each walked their separate paths home, they questioned themselves. Archie questioned himself, "Why didn't I just go for it? Well, I'm a gentleman. I can't kiss without permission." But he seemed like he wanted it too. Meanwhile, Micah wrestled with his own thoughts. Why couldn't I resist? Why do I want to see him again, even though we just parted? I guess I've been spending too much time with him. At school, Archie worried Micah might act awkward around him, but the moment Micah saw him, he walked over and held out his phone. Archie asked what it was, and Micah replied, "Your real exam scores." As it turned out, Archie's grades had been mistakenly mixed up with another student's. While he hadn't quite reached Micah's 90 pass mark, Archie had still performed admirably and hadn't failed a single subject. Concerned, Archie asked, "Are you disappointed?" Micah smiled and replied, "No, even though you didn't deserve the gift, you still did really well, and I'm proud of you." Archie remarked, "You smiled. This is the first time you've smiled at me." Micah quickly dropped his smile, and he announced that he was ending their tutoring sessions. Archie asked why, and Micah explained that Archie no longer required tutoring and could study on his own. Micah had his own things to do and couldn't continue tutoring Archie, especially with finals just a few weeks away. Though Archie didn't want to accept it, he understood that he had no other choice. Archie returned to his usual spot at the back of the class, where he could at least gaze at Micah, even if it was just the back of his head. Meanwhile, Micah found himself unable to shake thoughts of Archie from his mind, even though they weren't together as often as before. He always wanted to catch sight of Archie, even if it was just a fleeting glance of his face. He always fought, not looking back at Archie in class. One time, a girl from another class asked Micah where Archie was. Micah, feeling annoyed, replied, "Do I look like his nanny?" The girl retorted, "You don't have to be rude. I only asked because you two were always together." Normally, Micah would have ignored her or simply pointed in Archie's direction, but now he couldn't help but feel annoyed. Just then, Archie walked in, and upon seeing the girl, he approached her and playfully put his arm around her neck, claiming he had missed her. Micah watched, feeling a surge of jealousy as they left together. He knew the girl was one of Archie's friends whom he used to be causing trouble with, but he couldn't help but hate seeing them together. Feeling unlike himself and experiencing strange emotions since his date with Archie, Micah visited the library in search of a book that could explain his feelings. Unable to find what he was looking for, he reluctantly approached the librarian and described his symptoms. With a knowing smile, the librarian directed him to the section where he will find what he wants. Micah found a book and eagerly delved into its pages. After reading it repeatedly, he got only one answer: he was in love. Micah couldn't believe it. Falling in love or being in a relationship wasn't part of his plans before the age of 40, and moreover, Archie was male. It didn't make sense to him at all. For 2 days, Archie was absent from school, leaving Micah worried as he hadn't received any texts from Archie like usual. Micah got Archie's address from their teacher and paid him a visit. Upon arriving, he met Archie's mom, who told him that Archie had contracted chickenpox, so it might be impossible for them to meet. Micah reassured her that he had already had chickenpox before, so he couldn't contract it again and it would be safe for them to meet. Micah then asked Archie's mom for permission to use their kitchen, which she granted. Gathering some ingredients, he prepared a weird-looking juice and brought it to Archie's room. As Micah entered the room, Archie's eyes widened in surprise, and he moved forward as if to hug him, but then halted and moved back. Micah noticed and said, "Don't worry, I'm immune." Archie's face lit up with a wide smile, and he moved to hug Micah again, but Micah pushed him back and handed him the juice he had made. Curious, Archie asked what it was, and Micah explained that it would help him recover faster. Archie took a sip and made a face, asking what was in it. Micah replied, "If you don't want to drink it, it's fine," reaching to take it back. But Archie held onto it, insisting, "I'll drink it. It would be nice if I had something sweet, like a kiss, after drinking it." Micah stared at him blankly and Archie chuckled, saying he was just kidding. Archie gulped down the juice, and as soon as he finished, Micah leaned in and gave him a quick kiss. Micah immediately covered his mouth, shocked by his own action. Archie stood there stunned. Micah stammered, "I don't know why I did that." Before he could finish, Archie leaned in and reciprocated with a quick kiss on Micah's lips. They both stared at each other in silence for a moment before embracing each other and kissing passionately, as if they had been longing for each other. As they kissed, Archie suddenly felt a burning sensation all over his body. He quickly pulled back, trying to scratch himself. Micah stopped him, explaining that it was the effect of what he just drank. Archie tried to ignore the burning sensation and leaned in again to kiss Micah, but the discomfort became overwhelming. As Archie tried to scratch, Micah held onto his hand, preventing him. They sat down and talked to distract Archie's mind from the burning sensation. Eventually, they both fell asleep. When Micah woke up, it was already dark outside. Seeing that Archie was still asleep, he quietly left. During the next 3 days, Micah visited Archie after school. One day, as they were conversing, Micah suddenly said, "I think I might be in love with you." Archie replied, "Might? Well, I know that I'm in love with you and I want to be with you." Micah hesitated before saying, "If you want to be with me, then you have to wait until I'm 40. Archie replied, "I can wait." Micah asked, "Really?" Archie responded, "No, that's too far. What if I'm not alive by then?" Micah hit his mouth, telling him not to say such things. Archie then took Micah's hand in his, batting his eyes and saying, "Can't you reduce it, like to 18? Micah replied, "I'm 18. Archie asked, "What about after our finals?" Micah didn't reply and just shrugged his shoulders. Archie leaned closer to Micah's face, smiling, and said, "Silence means yes." Archie then took his calendar and drew a little heart around the day their finals would be over. Afterward, he kissed Micah's cheek. Micah, holding back a smile, didn't react. Seeing Micah not responding, Archie then kissed Micah's lips. Micah used his finger to push Archie back by his forehead, saying, "We're not together yet." Not listening, Archie pouted his lips and stared at him. Micah gave him a quick kiss and said, "That's enough." Archie smirked before pushing Micah onto the bed and kissing him all over. When Archie returned to school, he moved his seat next to Micah's again. He secretly held Micah's hand during classes and stole kisses when no one was looking. Micah secretly liked it and even sometimes dropped his cool axe to steal some kisses too. They both successfully graduated and officially started dating. Even though they attended different colleges, they were both in the same city and met each other as often as they could. Archie started his modeling dream, and Micah had trouble deciding what he wanted to do because he had many interests. The distance didn't affect their relationship at all, but instead made it stronger.